Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 2nd of August 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, bringing you the day's national top stories translated into English 6 days a week. The Union of Prosecutors has filed an appeal to the Constitutional Court against some articles of the new Criminal Code, which entered into power on August 1st. The Union of Prosecutors has asked for the repeal of 7 articles of the Criminal Code, which, according to the prosecutors, restrict the functioning and constitutional competencies of the prosecution. The Union of Prosecutors claims that these articles violate the principle of the rule of law and that some prosecutors' rights were restricted or removed, rights which were based on the Constitution. The Union of Prosecutors also claims that some articles violate the exclusive competence of prosecutors to follow a criminal proceeding. According to the prosecutors, the new Code of the Criminal Procedure has removed the right of prosecutors to make decisions, and it also violates the constitutional and institutional principle of independence. Under the old code, the prosecutor had the right to decide whether to send the case to court or not, while the new code gives the courts themselves the competence to judge a prosecutor's request for the suspension of an accusation or for sending a case to court. According to the prosecutors, this is unconstitutional. The prosecutors think that the removal of the prosecution's exclusivity to exert a criminal proceeding does not allow the prosecution to exert its constitutional activity, violating the principle on balance of power. 3 other laws of the judicial reform, with vetting amongst them, have also been appealed to the Constitutional Court. Judges and prosecutors ask for the repeal of some articles. The judicial reform has also affected the Court of Serious Crimes, which will undergo some changes with the entrance of the new Criminal Code. In an interview given with an Aura News journalist, the current chairman of the Court of Serious Crimes, Sandra Simoni, clarified the changes this institution will undergo, the creation of the Anti-Corruption Court and the special structure against corruption. The Court of Serious Crimes will be called the Court Against Corruption and Organised Crime. This process has not yet happened as it is conditioned by the creation of the Supreme Judicial Council. Under these conditions, when the new Criminal Code has entered into power, but the special structure against corruption and the new special court have not been created yet, the criminal offences will continue to be judged by the Court of Serious Crimes. Also, the same thing is predicted for the prosecution. The prosecution for serious crimes will continue to investigate the criminal offences until the creation of the special prosecution. The head of the Court of Serious Crimes added that many offences will be transferred to the district's courts. Mr. Simoni is a little bit in doubt about the criminal policy the district courts will follow. I am afraid that the distribution of the cases in the courts of the districts may bring a disproportion regarding the criminal policy. One of the aims of the criminal cases is for judges from the Court of Serious Crimes to apply a harsh punishment policy in order to prevent criminality, said the chair of the Court of Serious Crimes. Meanwhile, the judges who are currently part of this court will continue to be part of the Special Anti-Corruption Court, but they will first undergo the vetting process. According to the Constitution, the transitional constitutional provisions and to the status of judges, after the creation of the Supreme Judicial Council, the judges of serious crimes should give their consent to be transferred to the Court Against Corruption and Organised Crime. If the judges give their consent, they will receive a temporary appointment in the Court Against Corruption and Organised Crime. If the judges do not give their consent to be transferred to the new court and to undergo the vetting process, then they can be transferred to other courts according to the criteria of Supreme Judicial Council offers. According to the Civil Emergency Service, 15 fires have erupted in the past 24 hours across different areas of the country, including Shkodra, Tirana, Vlora, Korça, Dibër, Durrës, Elbasan and Berat. The firefighting teams, assisted by volunteer teams, military forces and some helicopters, have been battling the blazes. According to the Civil Emergency Service, 0.6 hectares of different types of trees were burned in Shkodra, 0.1 hectare of bushes and shrub burned in Dibër, 3 hectares of bushes burned in Durrës, and a further 2 hectares of bushes were burned in Berat. 35 hectares of bushes were burned in the Elbasan area. In Tirana, a fire erupted in the Ib village where 12 firefighters were sent, managing to extinguish the flames in the late hours of the night despite the difficult terrain. A big fire also erupted at Daiti, where 40 firefighters, 15 military officers and a helicopter were sent. Several operations were conducted because of the darkness and the rugged terrain, making their work difficult, but the blazes were isolated. Meanwhile, a fire started again in the Dukat area near Logara last night, burning dozens of hectares of land and risking the national park of Logara. The firefighting teams could not enter due to the rugged terrain and asked for intervention from the air. Military and Viva helicopters responded positively to the call from the civil emergency and are battling with the flames in Logara. The civil emergency specialists are keeping the situation under constant monitoring throughout the country because the danger of fire persists due to the hot weather. The Civil Emergency Service once again reiterated its appeal for citizens to call emergency phone numbers should they see any signs of fire. After the news of a possible restructure within the Democratic Party's chairmanship by this autumn, the organising secretary, Eno Bozdo, clarified that this process will be made only after a detailed analysis. During an interview with an Aura News journalist, Mr Bozdo said that there will not be elections for the party's chairmanship in September, and that work will be focused solely on the detailed analysis for the loss in the parliamentary elections held on June 25. The organising secretary said that maturity is needed for the analysis, as according to him, the recovery of the Democratic Party will start from this point. Mr Bozdo clarifies that the process for the restructuring of the Democratic Party will start after the analysis for elections. He adds that the restructuring process will be made in 2018, a time when, according to the party's statute, the mandate of the chairmanship and of the National Council of Secretaries and Vice-Chairmen ends. According to Mr Bozdo, the process of the analysis and restructuring of the Democratic Party should not be focused on names, but on the way the current restructure is functioning. The organising secretary of the Democratic Party also declared that there are some people whom he considers to be sponsors of news that do not help the sincere efforts for the recovery of the party. Mr Bozdo says that everything will be made so that the processes of the analysis and the party's restructuring can be completed as fast as possible and that the Democratic Party be ready for the local elections. Tirana's City Hall has started work for the urban requalification of a residential area in Sauk, an area with apartment buildings and private houses where interventions in infrastructure have so far been absent. Tirana's mayor today inspected the start of the work for the urban requalification in the area and declared that work will continue intensively during the summer, even though the citizens are on holidays. This is an investment made by the City Hall's budget. This is proof that when the City Hall is better managed, we can achieve many things, despite modest taxes and high expenditure. I can't wait to have this work completed by the end of the summer, when most of the citizens come back from their holidays, declared the mayor. Mr Veliai went on to call on residents to maintain the public investments and to liberate occupied public spaces via their own free will, without the need to start expropriation procedures. According to the mayor, the investments and such projects show the City Hall's vision to invest in every neighbourhood and improve infrastructure. Albania's state police have activated all its departments and taken a set of measures to monitor the entire coastline in order to increase security. High-ranking state police officials have been monitoring and inspecting the coastline in Vlorë, Himar and Sarand, focusing on creating a security perimeter for sailing vessels. State police announced it will now operate with a 12-hour service to increase citizen security at the beach. State police have focused its attention particularly to Vlorë, where there are currently a high number of citizens present. There are around 307 police officers engaged in Vlorë just to monitor the tourist season. The Rapid Intervention and Delta Forces will also join the state police officers to monitor the beaches. During a meeting held with Vlorë's local police, the director of the security department in the state police emphasised that Vlorë is the city with the highest number of vacationers. There are 307 police officers stationed at Vlorë for the tourist season. Unlike previous years, this year we have chosen new policemen and policewomen who have good performance in their work to patrol with bikes and motorbikes. Simultaneously, we have engaged Delta Force and the Rapid Intervention teams as well as other special forces due to the high flow of tourists and heavy traffic, said the director of the Security Department at the State Police. He went on to continue asking police officers to pursue the fight against cannabis cultivation and trafficking. A similar meeting was also held with Saranda's local police, to whom the director of the Security Department at the State Police also asked to increase security at the beaches. That's all for our English edition this evening. My name is Alexandra. Please join me again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. On behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.